Hi, and welcome to Organizing Life's Daily Demands. My name is Peter Gordon, and I am a daily money manager. We help people pay their bills, file insurance claims, and help them with all the non investment side of personal finance. So we feel like we're organizing their daily demands of their life. And the purpose of this podcast is to introduce you to other professionals who help people organize different aspects of their lives. And this morning, I'm thrilled to introduce and talk with Dr. Ken Redcross. Good morning, Ken. How are you?
Good morning, Peter. Thank you for having me on. Good morning, everyone out there. I hope you're doing well. I'm excited to be with you all today.
Yes, and so I'm excited for this too. You have a lot of great information. You provide a really important service, something my clients can use a lot and often do. So let's start by just give us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So everyone, I am a practicing internal medicine physician, but I'm a concierge physician, which is a little bit different. You know, it's funny, Peter, when I started this way back in 2007, I'm gonna date myself there.
Wow.
There wasn't such a thing as concierge medicine. I didn't even know what I was doing, but in essence, everyone, what I can do with the way I deliver care is I can provide you three important things: access, convenience, and time. And all of those things are incredibly important to have really that best kind of healthcare journey. And so that's what I'm very fortunate and blessed to do each and every day with what I do to help organize life's demands, daily demands for those that I'm fortunate enough to touch.
That's great. And so you're obviously a doctor. And how did you get into medicine?
Yeah, so look, everyone. I've been in practice over 20 years. Time flies when you're having fun. I trained here in New York, actually, at Columbia, and like I said, many moons ago. And from there, Peter, I went out to California and I worked in the strawberry fields with migrant Mexican farm workers for 4 years, which was quite different and quite unique. Service is always important to me. And from there, I transferred over to a little area you guys probably heard of. It's called Beverly Hills. And it's funny how that kind of happened. Just a short snippet there, Peter. I was in one of my cooking classes and I met a lady who thought my humor was great and wanted to introduce me to someone. So I ended up being the CEO of Cedars-Sinai. And from there, I transitioned. And that's where concierge medicine kind of came to light, but not in the way that you think. One of my patients came in and was very, very frustrated, and her boss was doing this big time movie on the lot of Universal, but he couldn't get out because he was too sick, didn't have the time. So at the end of the day, Peter, I said, tell him I'll come see him. So at the end of my day, I went to see him, and he's like, who are you? I was like, well, I'm the doctor. And he was like, I already know what I have, doc, and blah, blah, blah. So he was like, dude, this was amazing. What do I owe you? And I lie not, Peter. You'll appreciate this on the financial side. I said, $100? He was like, $100? Are you kidding me? So he wrote me this huge check. And from there, a model was born. Not because of the money, Peter, but he was elated with the care that I delivered. And then I was elated that I was able to live out my mission and my calling.
You know, most of the people in the senior service industries don't do it for the money, and the money's there, and it's you know, we all need money, but most people want to help others, and I love how you express that. He was elated, and there's nothing like that feeling of providing service to help somebody.
Not at all. And especially as you hit there, Peter, especially in the elder care space where I spend a lot of my time.
Yeah. Tell me about the importance of the doctor-patient relationship.
So everyone, one of the things that was important for me when I started my career is that I was doing a few things. I had a business. I had a business up in Northern California. I was in Southern California, and I'd fly every other week because I had a business up there with a partner. Long story short, I didn't realize, Peter, that it was a pretty heavy burden on me. Back and forth. And so there was one day in particular, I went to my emergency room. I wasn't feeling so well. I hadn't eaten that much. I went there, didn't look good. I thought all I had was a pneumonia. And I went there to get antibiotic and get back on that flight. later found out, Peter, that when they did the X-ray, the X-ray was negative. They did my EKG and it showed acute heart attack. I'm in my 30s, right? And so I said, you got to do that again. I work out 5 days a week. That's wrong. You have to do it again. And it said acute heart attack. So I later said we had to do more. So we did a catheterization. It was normal. So I tell you this story, everyone, because this is how my true journey started. I had a syndrome at the time called Takasobu's. It's only based on stress. The catecholamines, the adrenaline, damages the heart muscle and looks like a heart attack.
Wow.
So had I not stopped in that ER, you guys would not be talking with Dr. Redcross this morning. And so I wasn't able to practice for a couple of months. I had to sit with myself and pick up my favorite book, Peter. That's how my journey started. And sit with myself and focus on what is really the most important. It wasn't, Dr. Redcross with all these businesses. It was being in this patient-doctor relationship where here I am, a patient that's a doctor, and I'm terrified, petrified, don't know how I can talk to someone or how do I get some of my questions answered and how do I balance my new life norm. And so that was when I decided that that my focus was where it should be now. And that should be on the patient-doctor relationship and how can I, with my good fortune, give that back, knowing that that's the reason why I was born and why I was here.
So an issue that arises in modern day culture is the fact that the private equity firms have bought up many practices and are limiting the patient doctor relationship because it's costly.
Yep.
You want to address that a little bit?
I would love to. So I appreciate you mentioning that. So let me just paint a little picture for all of you out there. When you go see your doctor, so once again, I'm a practicing internist. Usually an internist has a panel of maybe 3,000 or 4,000 patients. They would like the internist to see about 30 people a day. Now, if you can imagine, so for someone like myself, where my whole goal is to get into the soul of the patient, imagine seeing 30 people a day, which averages to about 7.5 minutes per patient. And so when I started to learn some of these statistics, it started to help me understand why didn't I feel complete? And so what's happened in medicine is that, look, I go to my conferences, everyone says, oh, there's the unicorn, because I work by myself. I'm not in a group. But what's happened in medicine is that you get all these specialty groups and we're not run by physicians. We're run by business people who don't understand the importance of that connection. It doesn't matter. So I try to say that I practice more on value than volume. And those are the things that we're all seeing. And a lot of you may be feeling with your connection throughout this healthcare kind of behemoth that we all try to navigate through.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm always amazed when a doctor spends time with me at this point, and I'm at the point in my life where I see more doctors than I'd like to, you know, and you can see how they're stressed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Peter, another unfortunate statistic is that this past year was the largest number of physician suicides. It's a very real problem. I spend a decade of my life training, coming out to realize that you're kind of an employee of something much bigger that you can never really get ahead of. You're in your charts all day. When we leave the office, everyone, our work just begins. We get home and there's those charts, voluminous amounts of charts and paperwork to do it again the next day and the next day. And so you try to find that peace. You try to find that happiness to say, this isn't what I went to medical school for, was to necessarily push a pencil. Not bad for those who do push pencils, all right? But I'm just saying is that wasn't what you went into medicine to do. For me, once again, I went in to learn to get into the soul of a patient and how can I improve their life journey. And those are some of the challenges that we're seeing.
So how do you, well, a couple of things. Where do you get your clients from, your patients? So
it's interesting. So I'll tell you this, everyone. So a lot of what I do, and once again, as a physician who went off on his own, over 10 years ago now, I had to be innovative. And one of the things I didn't mention when I was in the Beverly Hills area is where the concierge practice started. But around that time, I had patients who were in the entertainment industry as well. And I'll never forget, Peter, one of the patients said, hey, doc, you ever thought about, getting in television and everything? And I was like, you don't want to see my acting skills, Peter. I'm like, Stella, you don't want to see that, guys. Very bad. So he was like, no, doc, just be you. So I started to get certain shows that would call me. I was a regular on Entertainment Tonight. I was Nancy Grace's murder show expert. I was all of these things. And so from there, I started to also be able to focus on something else near and dear to me, and that's the health and wellness space. And so I represent large brand companies with that in particular. So I was able to kind of have my health and wellness bucket. Then I have my MD support bucket. And then a huge part of what I do is the elder care bucket. That's where you really, really pay it forward and you give back and you really feel the importance of the love you can bring to the patient-doctor relationship. That's kind of my sweet spot nowadays.
That's great. And so let's see. So what's the introduction like? Who is it that's introducing you to patients?
Oh, so I'm sorry. So look, so a lot of people are reaching out to me, whether it be some of the social media channels. A lot of them will see I have some commercials running now and some commercials that are on air. They'll look you up and say, hey, I saw you on this. And I reach out and they say, oh, my God, you reached out. And so a lot of what I do is word of mouth, to be honest with you, Peter. Some of the entertainers I take care of are, well known, and they have their network and those folks who reach out. So a lot of my business, and really all of it, tends to be word of mouth, quite honestly, because I'm not with this large conglomerate. And so it's important that what I provide is very bespoke.
Right. And are you private pay? Do you accept insurance? How does that work?
So I am private pay. And, it's so interesting there, Peter. That was one of my, everyone, we always talk about how you have a moral compass. And one of the things that was very, very important to me is that, yes, I was on the Beverly Hills side of things, and that's kind of where I was. But it also wasn't the same when I was with my migrant Mexican farm workers. And so for me, it was like, how do I balance that? And so what I do, it is private pay. I try to work with patients, but what kind of works with them. And then one day a week, Peter, I'm at an assisted living facility, giving back and giving time and care to the assisted living facility, as well as in the memory unit and the dementia unit as well, where I also work and give that time. So that's how I balance, Peter. So on one side, when I'm dealing with the elder care side of things in the assisted living, that's more of an insured side. So that way I can say, all right, I'm living out my purpose for all. And then I have my cash folks on the other side.
That's wonderful. Well, what type of advice would you give people to prevent the need for doctors and to keep healthy?
Well, look, everyone. So this is going to be something that you're going to say, hey, doc, we've heard of that before and so forth, but it's true. So one thing, well, let me say this first, Peter. So when you do have your doctor connection, one of the things I always say when I'm doing talks like this is that it really doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, red, blue, whatever. There's something that's going to unite all of us, is that we're all going to be a patient at some point. And so the things that I want you to always just sit down and say, nope, Dr. Redcross said I deserve these things. It's trust, respect, empathy, and communication. Those are the things that all of us deserve with any patient-doctor relationship. And if those are sort of missing as you go through that checklist, then it's time to figure out someone who kind of meshes a little bit more into the real ethos of taking care of patients. Now, one of the best ways, or two of the best ways to keep from prolonging being that patient, you've heard them all before: diet and exercise. Now, when I say that, guys, you say, oh, diet, doc, that's hard. Well, it doesn't have to be, because when I talk about diet in this sense, it's not necessarily weight loss. It's really mindful eating. It's thinking about those 4 macros, the carbs, the proteins, the fats, learning a little bit and how to balance those. The other thing with exercise, look, the CDC already said we only need 150 minutes a week to decrease our mortality by over 23 to 28%. 150 minutes a week, that's 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Or they even had a new study that said weekend warriors that get that time in and Saturday and Sunday had the same health benefits. So I say all this to say it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't mean you have to be like me, like one of these crazy CrossFitters or cyclists like I am. You can actually walk briskly. You can actually do Tai Chi. All these things are important just to keep your heart rate up. And I just want you guys to give me 150 minutes a week. So those are some ways that, Peter, are attainable, that can actually fit into most people's schedule if you just put a little bit of commitment to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And everybody says, diet and exercise. To me, what you eat is much more important. I mean, if I exercise all the time, but I don't eat right, it doesn't help. But
absolutely.
Eat right, and I exercise a bit, it works much better. What type of opportunities are there for, to support the medical journey for doctors who are unhappy? Because I know I deal with a lot of attorneys who have been unhappy, and more and more the doctors I talk to are unhappy.
Yeah, look, one of the things I talk to docs about, like I said, I was so fortunate and blessed to kind of fall in to the media aspect of what I do. And I always tell docs, especially young docs, is that, our information is so valuable to a group of people that when I'm doing television or whatever, it allows me to scale the message. It allows me to touch many more souls that way. So I talk to them about things along those lines. I talk to them about wonderful podcasts like yours for some docs who love that happy space where they can actually drive what it is they want to do and believe in. Also talk about pharma. I mean, I did some stuff with pharma for a while. Pharma is not always evil, everyone. So I'm Western trained, but I'm on the alternative side of healing. So if we all meet one day, you'll hear me talking a lot about ashwagandha, astaxanthin, a whole bunch of things that are more on the holistic side of healing. But pharma does have an important role for my diabetics and that sort of thing. So there's that sort of line to go. There's when I started business school where I wanted to be an administrator of a facility, and I was a chief medical officer for some time in Connecticut. So I was just fortunate to say, I have this wonderful degree, but it doesn't have to be necessarily in those four walls seeing 30 or 40 patients a day, everyone. There are so many things that we can utilize our medical degree for, but it's just kind of stepping out and believing in you, believing in that guy or gal in the mirror.
Yeah, and that it's not for everyone. No matter what industry and what career you have. But I do want to go back to your favorite book, which is, what was the name of your book?
There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem by Wayne Dyer.
Right, and I read that many years ago, and even at the time, I didn't quite understand what spirituality was. And I've developed in my mind and in my life. What's your definition of spirituality? Because everyone has their own definition.
So the good thing about spirituality, everyone, and once again, we live in a world right now which is a little more compartmentalized, where spirituality, it's not about religion at all. It's kind of how the way I think about it is how I kind of process the world, and how I interact with it. And the reason why that's so important is because spirituality for me is like, what can I do for that particular day, that week, that month to really transcend someone else's life experience? I was fortunate enough, unfortunately, because of a situation, but it really let me sit down and understand what really is my purpose. And so that's what the spirituality aspect of where I focus. In that particular book, to your point, Peter, it was different for me. Here I am, this Western trained physician. I bleed Columbia blue, and everything is about formulas and this, that, and the other. Then you read, there's a spiritual solution to every problem. We're talking about energy. We're talking about vibration. We're talking about, I'm like, hold on, let me reread this. But then when I dug in deeper about it, or deeper into the book, I started to realize and just really understand. It's like, look, we're all walking matter. In essence, we're energy. You know, if you think about the amazing part of the body, everyone, the heart beats over 100,000 times a day without incident under most circumstances. That's beyond
Yeah.
that's beyond what we know in science, right? And so that's why I say that's such an important book, and kind of once again part of my ethos. Whenever I'm touching, reaching out to a patient or doing these sort of things as well, Peter. That's my goal, is that everyone not only realizes your wonderful podcast and information we're providing together, but that they feel like, that guy, he really cares. He cares about me. I feel like he knows who I am inside. And so that's the important part, and why that book was so important to kind of getting me on my journey.
Right. And that's, I mean, to me, spirituality is putting others before I put myself.
Yep.
And
yeah, well said.
That is not a natural human trait.
Not for some.
Not for a lot of people. And honestly, I believe I've always been that way, and I at one point thought it was a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that it's not, and it's what makes me happiest. And I'm able to do that in my life. I'm able to help others and also make a living.
Yep.
It's critical.
That gets back to another point, Peter, when I talk to you everyone about like that balance, right? That moral compass. And one of the things is, like, I was very fortunate and blessed, and to be able to, to make this good living and that sort of thing. But I had to go through this internal dialogue. Should I be profiting? Is this not, should I not? And so forth. So it's this thing about wanting to give. And so I came up with this really conscious capitalism, is what it is.
I love that.
I have a set of twins to feed, Peter. They just started college. So there has to be a capitalism. But the point is, you see, I led with conscious. And so that's where I live. And I find out when I'm more conscious about things just happen a little bit better.
That's a great term.
Yeah.
That's really fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important.
Well, this has been great, Ken. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your last name.
Oh, sure. It's funny. So I already mentioned that, when I started my concierge, I was in Beverly Hills, and I'd have patients that came up to say, "Did you change your name for TV?" I was like, "Look, I am not that important to have an alias. Okay, I am not important." And so, Peter, it's a Native American last name. My father, and the interesting thing is, it's from the Monacan tribe, a tribe that was down in the Maryland area. I grew up in Virginia, everyone, and so I'm probably the only doctor that'll be able to tell you, Peter, that I was sued by the American Redcross during one of my TV shows. And you won't believe, you can't make this stuff up. So I wasted, unfortunately, about a year of my life experience dealing with them, and I'll leave it at that with that organization, because I learned a lot. But it's something I'm very proud of. It's, I remember as a kid going to powwow, and I think that's kind of where my spirituality came from, with unbeknownst to me at the time. It was just what I knew from the Red Cross name and what it meant to me. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of that. And once again, it's one of those things that I think kind of set me on my journey.
Right. That's wonderful. So in the podcast, as well as the video, there'll be information on how to get in touch with you. But why don't you tell us nonetheless?
Oh, sure. So everyone, feel free to reach out. And I really mean this, everyone. Feel free to reach out. My website is drkenredcross.com. All my social media handles are at Dr. Ken Redcross. So that's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I really do mean it. I love meeting new people. Once again, this is my calling. And so when you reach out, I answer. So thank you guys for your time today.
Okay. Thank you so very much. That was great. I really love this. And to everybody out there, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you at the next video, or you'll hear me at the next podcast. Take care.